Hey guys, how you going? Welcome to the second fitness episode of the Rookie's Guide to Finke. Last week we covered cardio. This week we're going to cover strength and conditioning with Ben again.
Hey, I'm Ben Greenwood from 100% Strength. I'm a holistic performance coach who specialises in programming for dirt bike and off-road races. Today I'm going to give you an insight into what one of our race ready programs looks like for someone preparing to race Finke. So then we move on to strength. So most people know that to perform a feat of endurance, you need to have a high level of cardiovascular fitness, which we mentioned in the previous videos, training our energy systems, cardio, etc. So the other part of endurance, particularly when you're a dirt bike rider and you're going to be smashing yourself down a track like Finke with whoops this deep, you don't need me to tell you how hard that track is muscular endurance. So the foundational quality of muscular endurance is strength. The stronger you are, the longer you can perform a movement with good quality technique, which is exactly what we need to do riding that dirt bike down that track. The stronger you are, the easier it is going to be, the longer your time to fatigue will be. So one very important thing you need to know about strength training is you do not need to put on muscle to build strength. Strength is a skill, it's the ability of the nervous system to recruit fast twitch motor units. So we can get stronger without putting on any muscle at all. Very important, don't be worried about strength giving you arm pump or strength making you bulky and slowing you down. Those things, they're myths, it's actually false. You can most definitely get bulky strength training, but the way we do it, we work on building strength. We control our nutrition intake, which means we maintain the muscle mass that we've got and we build strength, get leaner, drop that body fat. We're not working on bulking up, unless obviously I've got a client who is young, which I have had that case come to me, they're 18, 19, they actually want to put on muscle, then we modify their nutrition to suit that. Putting on muscle is largely going to come down to nutrition, so don't get worried about lifting weights making you bulky. Lifting weights is going to make you strong, it's going to make your job a lot easier down that track. So the way we look at strength training is we want to balance the body out. The general strength program that you will get given if you go down to Anytime Fitness right now and get a strength program, it's going to be very anterior chain focus. And what we mean by anterior chain is the front of the body. So everything we do in day-to-day life is with the front of the body. So people tend to become overdeveloped in the front of their body, in the anterior chain, and underdeveloped and weak in the back of the body. So a large part of strength training is to balance those weaknesses out and improve strength in the back of the body. If you can think about that position you're in on the dirt bike, especially when you're wheeling through those whoops, when you're in that attack position, a large part of that endurance, a large part of that strength is going to come from your posterior chain. So we want to work on balancing out those movements, posterior chain movements, anterior chain movements. We also want to work on unilateral strength. So unilateral just means one side of the body to the other. So standing on one leg, performing movements with one arm. That way we get to very quickly shows up whether we're a little bit imbalanced. Again, our lifestyle is day-to-day life. Perhaps you've had an injury in the past. Very, very easy to become imbalanced. And when you're doing a bilateral movement on both legs or on both arms, one side can pick up the slack and you don't really know. As soon as we start to do unilateral movements, those imbalances very quickly show up. So it's very easy to then tailor things to balance the body out. Remember, a balanced body is a bulletproof body. Having a large imbalance, whether it be strength or mobility, flexibility, if you're really tight or if you're really weak in one area, you're more susceptible to injuries. So the more balanced our body can be, the more injury-proof we're going to be, which is a win when we're riding dirt bikes. So some of those movements that we include for the lower body, when we're talking about posterior and anterior, if you think of anterior chain, front of the body, movements we like to include are box squats. And then when we go to our unilateral strength, we include movements like A to G split squats and reverse step-ups. Obviously, like any type of lunging you're doing, any type of squatting you're doing is going to be around this anterior chain. We like these movements because a box squat you don't need as good a mobility to perform a box squat, so you can overload it in a shorter time frame. So you can build strength quickly in that range. We also include these. An ATG split squat is a full range split squat. So when we talk about mobility, strength through length, we want to not just train partial range movements. Obviously, partial range movements are going to be part of the process to build strength, but we also want to complement them with full range movements. If you never go into ranges, you will lose them very quickly. And motorbike riding is not very kind on our mobility. It is, a lot of motorbiking is partial range, and then we get in a car and we drive home sitting in a seat with our hips shortened. It's not good for our mobility. So when we think about our strength training, we want to think about using partial range movements and perhaps overloading them to build strength, and then using full range movements, whether they be unilateral or bilateral movements, full range movements to actually improve your mobility, which your mobility is your strength through full range of motion. So obviously, when you go into an end range movement, you're not going to be able to use as much load, but you are training your body to produce force and carry that load through the full range of motion, which is very, very important. So when we think about posterior chain movements for the lower body, like at the absolute basic level, if you've never trained before and you're learning a hip hinge movement, we'll start with things like banded pull-throughs and broomstick drills, so you can learn the motor pattern of hinging. Then we would progress to things like RDLs and rack pulls. So the reason why we love RDLs is for this reason down here, is because we can vary the tempo, what's called the tempo of an RDL, to train our body to absorb force. So even on these anterior chain movements, your squats, any movement you're doing really, like even a push-up, you can control the tempo. So the tempo is the lowering phase. So imagine if you're at the top of the push-up, the lowering phase is when you're lowering yourself down to the floor. It's the same with the squat, from standing down to the bottom of the squat, that's your tempo on the way down. When you're producing force, we most commonly work on trying to produce that force as fast as we can and move the load as fast as we can. If you can control that tempo, that's training your body to absorb force. So you think every time you hit a face of one of those whoops or a dune or whatever it is, that bike, you're doing 100k an hour, that bike's coming back towards you. So your body, we're constantly, whilst we are producing a lot of force on the dirt bike, I think depending on the track, but especially a track like Finke, we're probably doing more absorbing. So we need to get strong, get confident in those ranges of absorbing force. So that is the number one way you can make your strength training harder without actually adding more load. Remember, that's another valuable lesson you can learn with your strength training, is you do not need to always add load to the bar. Control is key. So don't chase load, don't chase numbers on the bar, chase control, chase the positions, chase the ability to move the load with intent. Once you can do that consistently, then you can add load. So you can change the tempo. If you have a box squat as an example, you can have a 5-second tempo from the top. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause at the bottom and then drive up. Same with your RDL. From the top down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you're training your body to control that load slowly, which is your ability to absorb force. So very important that you get some form of tempo variations into your strength training. Then we also include, like for upper body training for moto, it's pretty simple. Push-ups, pull-ups. You can get a really high level of upper body strength just with bodyweight movements. You don't need a full-on gym. We also love things like pen-lay rows, bent over rows. Obviously they're a bit of a progression for people. If you're a beginner, stick with bodyweight stuff, push-ups, pull-ups. And we have some shoulder prep, like some external rotation exercises that we have targets for, 10% of your body weight in an external rotation, and a power raise. So they're also good movements to work towards that 10% of body weight target with. If you can perform 10% of body weight on both those movements, you can have a really great level of shoulder health. So if you're strong, really strong, but you're stiff, you hit the ground, things aren't going to bend, you're going to break. So we want to get stronger, we also want to get more mobile, more flexible. So if the inevitable does happen and we come off the bike, we've got the best chance possible to come away from that without an injury. So a big part of that is your mobility as well. So most of our clients are getting two strength sessions in a week. Some of them 3 depending on their schedule, but 2 strength sessions. You can get a lot done in 2 sort of 45-minute strength sessions. 3 is ideal, but again, if you're getting 2 strength sessions in, 2 cardio sessions a week, and then getting out on your bike, then you're going to be in a really good place. Obviously, some people don't have that time. Just do what you can. Every single bit counts and every single bit helps. So just because, even if you've got 20 minutes and you can only get 2 exercises done, do it. Don't think, oh, stuff it. It's not worth it. It's only 20 minutes. It is worth it, trust me. Frequency and consistency are key. If you can get a 20-minute workout done every single day, you will be in a hell of a lot better place in 14 weeks when you get to the start line of that race. So remember that consistency, frequency, get as much done as you possibly can. Also consider recovery. Obviously overtraining is a big thing. The more you're training, the more stress you're putting into the system, the more you need to think about your sleep, your hydration, your nutrition and those sorts of things to balance that out. So you get the benefits of your training when you get to the race. So any questions on any of this, guys, hit me up. Bye for now.
So another great segment with information thanks to Ben. So keep your eyes out next week, and we're going to cover an episode on nutrition and race day food and what we should be eating to help us get there and back. Thanks, guys.